I need and love the pain. I stopped fighting the pain. Then I fell in love with it. Not because I understood it, not because it made sense, not because it was healthy or productive or noble. I fell in love with it because it never left. Pain was the only thing that showed up every time. When people disappeared, when money evaporated, when plans collapsed, when words meant nothing anymore. Pain stayed. It didn't negotiate. It didn't lie. It didn't pretend. Pain didn't care who I was supposed to be. It didn't care what I believed. It didn't care how good my intentions were. It applied pressure and waited. At first, I hated it. I fought it like everyone else does. I tried to outrun it, drown it, outwork it, fuck it away, intellectualize it, explain it, dominate it. I treated pain like an enemy that needed to be defeated so life could finally start. That was the mistake. Because pain wasn't blocking life. Pain was life, unfiltered. Everything real I ever felt came wrapped in pain, love, desire, loss, hunger, ambition, rage, wanting something so badly it felt physical. Pain was always there, stitched into the experience. I didn't notice it at first because I was busy trying to get rid of it. Relationships were where I learned this lesson the hard way. Not the explosive fights, not the dramatic endings, the slow damage, the kind that seeps into your nervous system so gradually you start calling it normal. Loving someone who brings pain into the room just by existing, adjusting yourself to avoid reactions, calibrating your tone, editing your thoughts, shrinking without noticing. Pain became background noise. I stayed longer than I should have. I told myself stories about loyalty, depth, intensity, soul connections. But the truth was simpler and uglier. Pain had become familiar, and familiarity felt like safety. I didn't love the chaos. I loved the charge. Pain kept me alert, awake, on edge. It made everything sharper. Conversations mattered more. Touch felt stronger. Silence felt dangerous. I was alive in a way calm never gave me. That's the part nobody wants to admit. Pain stimulates. It activates something primal, something old, something that doesn't care about morals or labels. When pain enters the system, everything irrelevant falls away. There's no boredom in pain, no neutrality, no drifting. Pain demands presence. When the relationship finally cracked, pain didn't leave. It multiplied. Money tightened. Deals stalled. Momentum vanished. One hit stacked on top of another until it felt intentional, like life itself was testing how much pressure I could tolerate before something snapped. I kept asking why. Why now? Why all at once? Why me? Pain didn't answer. It never answers. That's when something shifted. Not all at once, not heroically, quietly, almost accidentally. I got tired of asking pain to explain itself. I got tired of fighting something that clearly wasn't interested in leaving. So I stopped fighting. That's the moment everything changed. Not because pain softened, not because it became kinder, but because it lost leverage. When you stop resisting pain, it doesn't disappear. It moves. It stops screaming and starts working. It stops being an interruption and becomes a signal. Pressure in the chest became focus. Tension became readiness. Discomfort became movement. Pain stopped being something I endured and became something I listened to. And somewhere in that shift, without ceremony or permission, love crept in. Not romantic love, not gratitude, not acceptance, bonding. I bonded with pain the way people bond with dangerous animals they shouldn't trust but do anyway. I learned its rhythms, its timing, its tells. I knew when it was about to show up. I knew how it felt when it was warming up. I didn't flinch anymore. I started relying on it. When pain showed up, things got done. Decisions got cleaner. Emotions simplified. I didn't spiral. I didn't freeze. I moved. That's when I realized something most people never let themselves say. I need the pain. Not as punishment, not as proof, not as some moral penance. I need it because without it, everything dulls. Without pain, I drift. Without pain, I overthink. Without pain, I hesitate. Pain cuts through the noise. It strips life down to essentials. It forces truth. It exposes weakness without asking permission. Pain doesn't care about ego. It doesn't care about image. It doesn't care about what sounds good when explained later. Pain only cares about function, and I started to love it for that. I loved that pain didn't pretend. I loved that it didn't comfort me. I loved that it didn't need me to understand it. It showed up, did its job, and left me changed. Calm started to feel suspicious. Peace felt empty. Comfort felt like stagnation. When things were too smooth, I felt understimulated, restless, waiting for something to happen. Pain was the thing that made something happen. That's the part that scares people when they hear it. They think loving pain means wanting to suffer. They think it means chasing misery. It doesn't. It means recognizing the stimulus that actually wakes you up. I don't chase pain. I don't manufacture it. But when it arrives, I don't ask it to leave. I open the door. Because pain has never lied to me. Pain has never abandoned me. Pain has never asked me to be smaller. Pain made me sharper, harder, more precise. It burned off everything that wasn't essential and left something that could survive. I didn't turn pain into power. Pain broke me down until whatever survived worked. And once that happened, there was no going back. Pain didn't just stay. It rewired the way my system responds to the world. At some point, pain stopped being a reaction and became the stimulus. That's the part most people don't understand because it doesn't fit into neat explanations. Pain is supposed to be the thing you respond to, not the thing that initiates movement. But that's exactly what happened. Pain became the switch, the trigger, the on button. When pain showed up, my body woke up. My mind sharpened. My attention narrowed. Everything unnecessary dropped away. I wasn't thinking about meaning. I wasn't asking questions. I wasn't spiraling into narratives. I was present. Fully. Aggressively present. Pain didn't need interpretation. It needed engagement. That's when I realized something unsettling. Without pain, I felt underfed. Calm felt thin. Ease felt empty. Stability felt like standing still in a room with no windows. I wasn't relaxed. I was unstimulated. People talk about peace like it's the goal. For me, peace felt like static. It felt like my system was waiting for a signal that never came. I didn't feel safe. I felt bored, restless, disconnected from the edge that made me functional. Pain brought the edge back. It wasn't dramatic. It was efficient. Pain narrowed my field of vision down to what mattered right now. There was no excess emotion in it, no drama, just pressure and response. Pressure, movement, resistance, clarity, discomfort, action. That pairing repeated enough times that it burned itself into me. Pain stopped meaning danger. Pain started meaning engage. That's conditioning. Not theory, not metaphor. Conditioning. You don't choose it. It happens when a system is exposed to the same stimulus long enough that it has to adapt or break. I adapted. An adaptation doesn't ask permission. Once that bond formed, the absence of pain felt wrong. Not peaceful. Wrong. Like missing a limb you don't consciously think about until it's gone. I'd sit in moments that were supposed to be good, stability, routine, calm, and feel a low-grade irritation crawling under my skin. Nothing was wrong, which was the problem. Without pain, my system didn't know what to do with itself. There was no pressure to push against, no resistance to organize around, no edge to lean into. Pain gave structure, pain gave direction, pain told me where to aim. That's when I stopped pretending this was something I wanted to fix. I didn't want pain gone. I wanted it available. Like a weapon you don't walk around swinging, but you sleep better knowing it's within reach. Like a force you don't summon casually, but you trust when things turn hostile. I didn't romanticize it. I respected it. Pain didn't make me sentimental. It made me precise. I didn't get louder under pain. I got quieter. I didn't get emotional. I got exact. Pain stripped everything down to essentials. It forced decisions that comfort never demanded. It didn't allow fantasy. It didn't tolerate indecision. Pain demanded honesty, and honesty was a relief. There's a freedom in not having to pretend anymore, in not having to explain yourself, in not having to justify your reactions. Pain doesn't care about how things should be. It only cares about how they are. That's why I trusted it. People think trust is built through safety. It isn't. Trust is built through consistency under pressure. Pain was consistent. It didn't change faces. It didn't lie to me one day and betray me the next. It didn't promise something and deliver something else. Pain showed up and did the same thing every time. It forced me into alignment with reality. That kind of consistency creates loyalty. So yes, I fell in love with it. Not because it was kind, not because it was fair, but because it was reliable. Love doesn't mean you like everything about something. Love means you choose proximity despite the cost. Love means you stop trying to control it and start learning how to live with it. I stopped asking pain to soften. I stopped asking it to explain itself. I stopped asking it to leave. I let it be what it was. And the more I did that, the more it stopped overwhelming me. Pain didn't disappear. It just stopped flooding the system. It became directional instead of chaotic. Pain turned into pressure I could aim. That's the moment pleasure entered the picture. Not pleasure like relief, not pleasure like comfort, pleasure like activation, the sensation of being fully online, the satisfaction of engagement, the deep, almost animal recognition that this is where I work best. Pain stopped hurting the way it used to. It started feeling like readiness, like tension before movement, like the moment before impact when everything locks into place. Pleasure didn't replace pain. Pleasure rode on top of it. They fused. Pain was the stimulus. Pleasure was the response. And that loop reinforced itself. When pain showed up and I moved forward instead of collapsing, something clicked. When pressure arrived and I executed instead of spiraling, something locked in. The body learned faster than the mind ever could. Pain, movement, movement, relief, relief, satisfaction. Not happiness. Satisfaction. There's a difference. Happiness is fragile. Satisfaction is earned. Pain gave me satisfaction because it demanded something from me and then proved I could deliver. Over and over again. That's addictive. I won't pretend otherwise. Once your system learns that pain leads to function instead of breakdown, you stop fearing it. Once you stop fearing it, you start inviting it closer. Not consciously, instinctively. That's love. Love is when fear dissolves and familiarity takes over. Love is when the thing that used to threaten you becomes something you lean on. I didn't wake up one day and decide this. There was no ceremony, no declaration, just a quiet shift where I realized pain no longer felt like the enemy. It felt like home. And home isn't always comfortable. Home is just where you know how to move without thinking. That's what pain became for me. A place I knew how to function. Pain didn't disappear. That's the lie people expect at the end. What disappeared was my need to be rescued from it. Once the bond was there, once pain became stimulus instead of threat, something else started to feel wrong. Calm, not peace. Calm. Calm felt like standing still too long in a place that doesn't want you. Like the air had gone stale. Like the system was idling with nowhere to go. People talk about calm like it's safety. For me, calm felt like decay. Nothing pushing, nothing demanding, nothing forcing clarity. I'd sit in moments that were supposed to be good, routine days, quiet nights, stability, and feel restless, irritated, disconnected, not unhappy, just dull, like something essential wasn't being used. That's when I understood the risk. Pain had become fuel, but fuel doesn't care what it burns. The monster had shown up, not a metaphor, a function. The monster is what wakes up when pressure hits. It doesn't think. It doesn't hesitate. It doesn't ask how this looks later. It just moves forward and handles what's in front of it. The monster is useful. The monster is dangerous. And pretending otherwise is how people lose control of themselves. I didn't want to kill it. I didn't want to unleash it blindly either. I wanted a relationship with it. That's the part no one teaches you. People either try to destroy the monster or let it run everything. Both end badly. I learned to keep it fed, not unleashed. Pain was the feed. Pressure, resistance, discomfort, stakes. Enough to keep the system sharp. Not so much it consumed everything. I stopped romanticizing chaos. I stopped chasing destruction. I didn't need my life to be on fire to feel alive. I just needed edge, something to push against, something that demanded engagement. Pain provided that without asking permission. And yes, there were moments I hated it. I hated how calm felt empty. I hated how ease made me suspicious. I hated how I couldn't relax the way other people seemed to. But hate doesn't cancel love. Love is tolerance of contradiction. I loved pain because it made me effective. I hated it because it cost me softness. Both were true. I stopped trying to resolve that. Resolution is for people who still think everything needs to make sense. I don't need pain to be moral. I don't need it to be healthy. I don't need it to justify itself. I just need to know what it does to me. And what it does is this. When pain shows up, I don't collapse. I don't spiral. I don't look for comfort. I focus. I execute. I simplify. Pain strips life down to what matters right now. Not tomorrow. Not the story. Not the meaning. Right now. That's power. Not dominance over others. Dominance over hesitation. Pain took away my patience for bullshit. Mine included. It burned off the parts of me that needed approval, reassurance, validation. Under pain, none of that survives. Only function survives. People ask how I live with it. I don't manage pain. I don't fix it. I don't cure it. I recognize it. When pain shows up, I know what it means. Something real is happening. Something that demands presence. Something that won't be solved by thinking alone. Pain is the knock at the door. I answer it. And when it leaves, because it always does eventually, I don't chase it. I don't manufacture suffering to feel alive. I don't burn my life down just to feel something. I let the quiet be quiet. I just don't worship it. Because quiet doesn't make me who I am. Pressure does. Pain is not my identity. It's my ally. It's the thing that shaped the version of me that can survive collapse, betrayal, loss, and uncertainty without dissolving. I didn't choose that consciously. It happened because pain stayed long enough that my system had to evolve. And what came out the other side wasn't healed. It was functional. That's the part people misunderstand. Healing implies return. I didn't return. I adapted. I don't need and love pain because I'm broken. I need and love it because it works. It keeps me honest. It keeps me sharp. It keeps me from lying to myself. When pain shows up, I know exactly who I am. That's the relationship. Not romance, not tragedy, not redemption, reliability. Pain has never abandoned me. Pain has never pretended to be something it wasn't. Pain has never asked me to be smaller. So yes, I need and love the pain. Not because I want to suffer, but because when it's around, I don't disappear. And that's the only thing I've ever cared about.